Dear all, thank you for joining. This is the seventh session on emotional intelligence. So as usual, let's do a quick recap. In the previous sessions, we have discussed that current present-day education system focuses on intelligence quotient. However, as we have all graduated from schools and colleges, but today when we go back to our schools and colleges, we find that it is not the people who are most studious who have really emerged successful in life. Studies have shown that IQ is a threshold quality. Thing is that it will gain us entry into a job or a profession. But thereafter, the progression in a profession or career is seen to be almost 80% determined by emotional maturity. This was said by Daniel Goleman in his best-selling book, Emotional Intelligence, in the year 1995. And this series of workshops is an attempt to go through the pages of this book and understand it in more detail. And we have gone through the emotional brain, and we have seen that there are 5 domains for emotional intelligence, which are emotional self-awareness, managing emotions, self-motivation, empathy, and handling relationships. And after that, we saw how emotional intelligence influences family relations. And today, we are going to examine the role of emotional intelligence in on-the-job success. Managing with heart. It was 1978. United Airlines flight 173 was approaching Portland Airport. There was a technical snag. The landing gear was not functioning. The pilot was a very competent, towering personality who was very angry, whom the other crew members were afraid to speak up to. When the pilot was obsessed over the landing gear, fuel was getting depleted. Fuel gauge was showing lowering levels. Other crew members detected an impending crash, but they were afraid to speak to the pilot, and the plane crashed and killed 10 people. It is said that almost 80% airline crashes would have been prevented if the crew had worked more harmoniously. This happens not only in the cockpits or in airlines, it happens in everyday life. It happens in every office, it happens in every factory, it happens in every school. But those incidents are not such high profile, and as a result, we do not come to know about it. But here, a question will arise in our mind. What is the right way? What kind of relation should be there between the boss and the subordinate? A survey was conducted with executives in the 1970s. And these were the feelings expressed by senior executives. They said, feeling for subordinate will make it difficult to manage. Hard decisions need cold-heartedness. Empathy will conflict with organizational goals, and work demands head and not heart. This was the perception at that time. That era, that is the era of mass production or industrial revolution. Is it so valid? Such kind of perspective in today's times? We know, unlike any time earlier in history, today, ideas rule the world. The largest valued companies in the world, WhatsApp, Facebook, Google, they were all founded by people who had ideas, who had a vision without much of capital. In the industrial age, the person who owned capital could dictate the terms, and others had no choice but to comply. But in today's time, companies are making extra effort to attract and retain talent because it is talent that is going to make the difference. And there, will this kind of attitude of an arrogant boss, is it going to be effective? It is seen that it's not. Not only in the IT companies, even in the brick and mortar companies, if there is incivility in the workplace, it is seen to have an adverse impact. This was found by the researcher Christine Porath, and these are her findings. She found that when people, if they experience incivility or even if they observe incivility, in the workplace, 66% they cut back their efforts. Take a moment to think. You go to your office and you find that your colleague is being berated for no reason by the boss. Will you feel like putting your best effort? Please put your response in the chat box, or if you are watching this in YouTube, put it in the comment. It is seen that 80% lost work time when they experienced or observed incivility in the workplace, and 12% left the job altogether. Cisco conservatively estimates a loss of $12 million per year due to workplace incivility. On the other hand, what happens when there is respect in workplace? Christine Porath has found that 56% of the employees were healthier, 92% they were more focused, 1.1 times greater employee retention, and 55% the employees were more engaged. And this is what she says: small things matter. Thank people, share credit, listen attentively, humbly ask questions, acknowledge others, and smile. Today, my boss came to me and told, Harish, congratulations, an athlete from your country has won the gold medal. I felt happy. And surely I put in some extra effort at office. Not because it just happened, because I felt happy. Today, we will discuss how emotional intelligence can be applied on these three things, particularly in our offices. First is about how to provide criticism. Second, how to embrace diversity. And third, the importance of networking. Let us take them one by one. First, to give criticism. In offices, it is very essential for us to provide feedback. But what is the right way to do that? Are you a boss, a teacher, or a parent who gives a feedback like this? Or are you a subordinate or a student or a child who shivers at receiving such adverse feedback? Let us find what is the best way out in such situations. As we have discussed many times earlier, there is two ways to frame criticism. First is to invoke guilt. That is to say, you did something bad. The second way is to invoke shame. That is to say, you are bad, you are good for nothing. And these two ways has, even though it is only subtle difference in the way it is said, it makes a profound difference. When it is said that you did something bad, the person feels like I can do something better because the way it was done is only thing to be corrected. There is nothing wrong with that person as such. As a result, if they try to improve their act by just 1% per day over a period of 365 days, they are going to improve by about 38 times. On the other hand, when someone is said, you are good for nothing, as a result, if they lose their motivation by just 1% per day over a period of 365 days, their ability to do that task will become almost nothing. So the right way to provide criticism as well as to receive criticism is to take it, is to frame it that you did something bad or I did something bad. It may be a very senior person, highly decorated, highly qualified, otherwise highly intelligent person who would be telling you that you are bad. Don't believe that person. Regardless whatever their credentials, no human being on earth has that capability to judge the talent or abilities of another individual. No one can even say what exactly is going to happen the next moment or the next day. How can someone predict that somebody is bad? That's stupidity. Regardless whatever the credential, if someone tells anyone that you are bad, the person who says that is the stupid person. A wise person will never ever say that. We have so many examples. Take the case of J.K. Rowling. More than 119 publishers, well-experienced, well-positioned publishers, thought that her first book of Harry Potter was good for nothing. And what happened to those predictions? Similar things were told about Beatles. Similar thing was said about Kentucky Fried Chicken recipe, I think it was rejected by more than 1,000 restaurants. But see, what was the end results? Therefore, regardless the position, regardless the seniority, age or intelligence of the person, if somebody ever tells you are good for nothing, do not believe it. Always frame it in such a way that I did something bad. So this is the right way to give as well as receive criticism. I mean, right way to give criticism, regardless the way the criticism is delivered, always reframe it such a way when you receive it. And there is a specific format to provide criticism. That is, when you did X, we had issue Y. I would have liked if you had done Z. What is so special about this format? It is very specific. It says what was done wrong. And then it says what should have been the alternative. And another thing is that be sensitive and be empathetic when providing criticism. And be present. Criticisms are best delivered in person, not through an email or a message. Meet them face to face and be specific and be clear about what is the alternative and be sensitive. Next, we will come to how to embrace diversity. Let us do a thought experiment. Imagine you have to join the army. There is no question. You have no choice. You have to join. But you can make one choice. Out of these 3 groups, you can decide which one you are going to join. You can say, I will join group 1, group 2, or group 3. Which one would you join? Please give your answer or type out in the chat. Which group you would like to join?
Group 1.
Okay, someone else?
Group 1.
Okay,
Group 1.
Some women?
Group 3.
Okay.
Group 3. Group 3 for me too.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You see that? You see that? Why? Can the men who said 1, can you guess why the women said group 3?
They are always opposing men.
No, they see people like them in group 3. If they come to group
Yes.
1, they
Yes.
will be the odd
Exactly.
person out.
Yes.
Right. This is the importance of diversity. Thing is that we would be more comfortable among people who look and talk like us. But today's reality is that in one place or the other, we will have to work with a diverse group of people. We are all expatriates. Have you ever felt that you are the odd person out? Or have you ever observed someone as the odd person out? There can be so many reasons. Yes, all those things can be the reason for someone to feel like the odd person out. We have no choice. We have to embrace it because that is the world today. How to do that? There are certain barriers to do it naturally that comes out of our very nature. Let us do a thought experiment again. Imagine you are given 500 reals and you have to distribute it to a charity. You have to do it quickly and no questions asked and nobody will question your decision. There are 2 charities. You know only one thing. Charity X is run by a person who belongs to your home place and charity Y is run by a foreigner. With just this information, you have to distribute this 500 real. If you don't do it within a split second, you are going to lose your job. What would be your decision? Who will you give it to? Charity X, who run by
X.
Charity X.
Charity X you will do. Okay, right. Now look at it. Charity X is run by a convicted thief and Charity Y is run by Mother Teresa. Was the decision right? One more question.
No.
This experiment was done by a YouTuber. What he did is he dressed up as a poor man and feigned that he was sick and he fell down on the street. And the same person at the same street, he dressed up as a well-dressed and he feigned that he was sick and he feigned as if he fainted as he acted as if he is fainting on the street. Do you imagine there would be some way in the way the passerby treated him? When he was poorly dressed, nobody even bothered to look at him. When he was well dressed, people were much more willing to help him out. Do you think that as a natural reaction? It is the way we are hardwired. Because when we were cavemen, we had to be very careful about how we approach people. So with that, there are certain heuristics that is embedded in our brains, and that will give us some gut reaction to this kind of situations. And in most cases, in many cases, there will be embedded discrimination and bias in all those gut reactions. For that reason, just providing a diversity training or exhorting everyone to embrace diversity in a 1-hour program is not going to be effective. Because we all come up with this kind of biases deeply entrenched in our mind. It is easier to change our intellectual belief rather than our deep feelings. Therefore, effective diversity and inclusion training is seen to be, it is not a training, is seen to be well implemented explicit policies. That says there is zero tolerance to discrimination. You would have noticed in the inaugural address by after Joe Biden took over as president, in one of his speeches, he very clearly said, if any person speaks in shouts against someone in this office, he or she will be immediately fired. That kind of policies have to be implemented. That even if there is any, kind of discrimination, that has to be explicitly discouraged, or there should be some penalties imposed on that. That kind of activities, that kind of policies are only seen to be effective to embrace diversity and to reduce discrimination. Encouraged to speak out against low acts of discrimination. Turning a blind eye to acts of bias allows discrimination to thrive. So if you find somewhere someone is being made fun of on the basis of race, religion, or something, it is our duty to speak out against it. If we turn a blind eye, that will allow that sort of discrimination to thrive. And as our presiding officer Ravi said, empathy. Always try to see the world from the other person's perspective. If you want to, if our gut feeling is to discriminate someone, take a moment, step into their shoes and see the world through their eyes. So this is how to embrace diversity. And the third is networking. In today's world, a person alone can achieve very little. It takes a group of people. Take the case of this meeting today. Can one single person conduct a well-run meeting like us we are having now? We need to have many. A group of people have to be there. Somebody has to be the Zoom master, someone has to be the speaker, someone should be there as the evaluator. In the workplace too, take the case of a hospital. For a well-run hospital, it's important for the doctor, the janitor, for the lawyer, for the data entry operator, for the technician, the administrator, all of them to work in harmony, work together well. It is seen through a study in Bell Labs that the star performers were not outstanding in terms of their intellectual capability or expertise. Star performers had good rapport with a network of key people. And when unexpected problems arose, adaptive informal networks emerge and get things done. Take adaptive informal networks. They exist in all walks of life. Take the case of our meeting today. This is Periyar Toastmasters Club. Can you name some of the informal networks that are there in Periyar? There is the Conclave network, there is the Jasmine network, there is the Thurupugulan network. There is nothing good or bad. It's a fact of life. It is the fact of human nature. There is going to be such informal network wherever you go, whether be it in your office, be it in the Toastmasters, be it in the community, be it even the family. And the star performers, they are seen to be able to connect together these kind of networks. And when problems arose, the star performers were able to find solutions. Their calls were answered immediately. In Bell Labs, it was seen that when a complex problem was given, otherwise equally qualified and equally intelligent people, they were stuck because they could not get the necessary support and expertise from others, but some others, they could solve it faster because they could reach out to people across the organization and get the responses faster. That is the power of informal networks. So that is the importance of networking to be a star performer in the workplace. There is one more important concept that is called group IQ. When a group is there is something called a group IQ that is formed. Group IQ cannot be more than the sum of the individual IQs, but there is something more to say about group IQ. Take these two teams. Let's imagine they are competing in a team wrestling competition in Tokyo Olympics. Team A consists of two ordinary human beings. They look sad. That is Team A, an ordinary man and an ordinary woman. Team B consists of Superman and Superwoman. And this Team A is going to compete against Team B in group wrestling. Which team is going to win? Team A or Team B? Please put in the comment or in the chat box. Which team is going to win?
Team B.
Team B. Team B, okay.
B.
Yes, now one more thing. Team A, they are a coherent team. They support each other. They keep each other's back. Team B, this is the way they treat each other. They are always at each other's throat. Now, which team is going to win? Team A or Team B?
A.
Team A. The Team B, Team A doesn't have to do anything. Team B will annihilate itself. This is how group intelligence works. In groups, harmony, teams which have internal harmony, they have a higher level of group IQ. So this is another way of representing the concept of networking. People who are good at networking, keeping teams together, they naturally emerge as star performers or leaders. Now, this study, Project Oxygen, was done in Google. They conducted a study for more than a decade to find out what makes effective managers. And these are the qualities they found, that managers who possess these kind of qualities, Google found them to be effective, consistently effective. Is a good coach, empowers team, creates an inclusive environment, is productive, result-oriented, good communicator, listens, supports career development, has a clear vision strategy, has key technical skills, collaborates across Google, is a strong decision maker. Question here, in all these 10 qualities, does it anywhere say that the effective manager has to shout or insult subordinates? It doesn't. No. Second question, how many of these qualities are typically represented by IQ? And how many is in the realm of EQ? Almost 8 is in the realm of EQ, and about 2 maybe we can say that relates to IQ. So this is the importance of emotional intelligence that in making good managers has been found by this long-running study at Google. They employed the latest techniques. They employed big data. It was a very fair, extensive study. So with that, we have come to the end of today's presentation. And the next session, we will go through the importance of emotional intelligence in health and well-being. Now it's time for question and answers. Please ask